Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Speak Smart podcast.
We're diving deep today into how reading can really boost your English skills.
We've got this fascinating transcript from a podcast called Daily Reading Practice.
Yeah, we're going to pull out the best tips for you.
We're excited to share some surprising benefits.
Oh yeah, stuff that goes way beyond just learning new words.
Like, did you know that reading can actually make you a better speaker?
Sounds kind of strange, right?
But we'll break it all down for you.
Let's start with the basics.
Okay.
Why is reading so important for learning a language?
Why indeed?
It all comes down to exposure.
Right. It's like being surrounded by English, even if you're not actually in an English-speaking country.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When you read, you see grammar and sentence structure in action.
You're not just memorizing rules from a textbook.
Right. You're seeing how the language actually works.
It's like watching a chef cook instead of just reading a recipe.
Ooh, I like that analogy.
You get a feel for the nuances and the techniques.
Exactly. And that helps you internalize the language.
So it becomes more natural for you to speak correctly.
And here's another benefit that might surprise you.
What's that?
Reading makes you a better critical thinker.
Oh, yeah. It's not just passively absorbing words.
You have to analyze the information,
Interpret it.
form your own opinions.
Think back to a time when you had to read between the lines to understand something.
That's the kind of skill reading helps you develop.
So how can we make reading a regular habit?
The Daily Reading Practice podcast had some great advice on that.
What do they say?
Start small and be consistent.
Don't try to read for hours at a time.
Yeah, just aim for 10 or 15 minutes each day.
It's like working out a muscle.
The more you do it, the stronger it gets.
And create a cozy reading space.
Ooh, yes. Make it inviting.
Like a comfy armchair with a warm blanket
A nice cup of tea.
and a captivating book.
It should feel like a treat, not a chore.
Speaking of treats, let's talk about picking the right reading material.
The podcast we're looking at today suggests finding something you truly enjoy.
Don't feel like you have to start with Shakespeare.
No! If you're into graphic novels or mysteries or even celebrity biographies, start there.
It's all about finding something that keeps you engaged.
Something that makes you want to keep turning the pages.
And if you're a beginner, try graded readers.
They use simply vocabulary and grammar.
It's a great way to build your confidence.
And audiobooks are fantastic too.
Oh, I love audiobooks.
They help with pronunciation.
And listening comprehension.
And you can multitask.
Listen while you're commuting or cooking or exercising.
A lot of audiobook apps even have built-in dictionaries.
So you can look up words without interrupting your flow.
Now let's talk about some power reading technique.
Okay, I'm ready to become a speed reader.
Well, maybe not that fast, but there are ways to be more efficient.
Like what?
Skimming and scanning.
I've heard of those.
Skimming is when you quickly look over the text to get the main idea.
You check out the headings, subheadings, visuals.
It's like taking a helicopter ride over the text.
And scanning is when you're looking for specific information.
Like a date, a name, or a statistic.
It's like using a laser pointer to find exactly what you need.
So skimming is for the big picture, and scanning is for the details.
Got it. Now, what about active reading?
This means really engaging with the text.
Not just letting the words wash over you.
You should be highlighting key points, taking notes, even questioning the author's ideas.
I love that. It's like having a conversation with the author.
Exactly. And your notes don't have to be fancy.
Just jot down keywords, summarize main points, or draw diagrams.
Experiment with different methods and find what works best for you.
I'm a big fan of mind maps.
Me too. They're great for seeing the connections between ideas.
Let's move on to vocabulary.
Ah, yes. The building blocks of language.
It can feel overwhelming sometimes.
It definitely can. But the Daily Reading Practice podcast had some good advice.
Oh, yeah. What do they suggest?
Keep a vocabulary journal.
Not just writing down words and definitions, though, right?
Right. You have to actively use the words.
So, like, write sentences with them.
Exactly. Try to come up with your own examples.
That makes sense. It's like taking the words for a spin.
And don't be afraid to get creative with it.
Make it fun.
The more memorable your examples are, the better you'll remember the words.
And the podcast also suggested guessing the meaning of a word before looking it up.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
It's like a little puzzle.
It makes it more engaging,
Plus, it helps you develop your inferencing skills.
which are crucial for understanding what you read.
So it's a win-win.
Speaking of winning, let's talk about boosting comprehension.
I'm all ears.
One technique is previewing the text before you start reading.
Like checking out a map before exploring a new city.
Exactly. You get a sense of the overall structure
And the key points.
by skimming the headings, subheadings, and visuals.
It's like creating a roadmap for your reading,
And don't forget about visualizing what you read.
even if it's not a story.
Yes, even with nonfiction, try to create mental pictures.
It helps me remember things better.
It makes the information more concrete and memorable.
This is like watching a movie in your head.
Exactly. Now let's tackle the big challenge.
It's that.
Finding time to read.
It's a struggle for everyone.
But the podcast reminds us that even small chunks of time can make a difference.
Like 15 minutes while you're waiting for your coffee.
Or during your commute.
It's about finding those hidden moments.
It's turning them into reading opportunities.
You could even listen to audiobooks while you're doing other things.
Like cooking or walking the dog.
It's all about multitasking.
But make sure reading feels like a treat.
Not another chore on your to-do list.
It should be something you enjoy.
Now let's talk about some common reading challenges.
Like staying focused.
Yes. In this world of distractions, it's so easy to get sidetracked.
The podcast suggests creating a dedicated reading space.
Free from clutter and electronic devices.
It's like creating a sanctuary for your mind.
And set aside specific times for checking email and social media.
So you're not constantly interrupting your reading flow.
Another challenge is motivation.
Sometimes it's hard to find the energy to read.
Especially after a long day.
Remember, start small.
And choose books that truly interest you.
Don't be afraid to abandon a book if it's not grabbing you.
Life's too short to read boring books.
What about when you encounter a difficult text?
One that's full of new words or complex sentences.
It can be frustrating.
But remember, even experienced readers face challenges.
Approach it with a growth mindset.
It's all about learning and growing.
Don't hesitate to use tools like dictionaries.
Or language learning apps.
The more you expose yourself to challenging texts, the easier it will become.
And don't underestimate the power of rereading.
Sometimes you pick up new things on the second or third read.
Let's talk about making reading a more social experience.
Book clubs are a great way to do that.
You can discuss books with other people.
Share recommendations.
And get different perspectives.
Even if you don't join a formal book club.
You can create your own reading group with friends.
Or family.
It's about making reading a shared experience.
And if you're a parent or teacher, encourage reading in children from an early age.
Read aloud to them. Make it fun.
Help them develop a love for reading.
It's a gift that will last a lifetime.
Before we wrap up, I want to emphasize the importance of the Daily Reading Practice podcast.
It's a fantastic resource for language learners.
They really highlight how reading is more than just a solitary activity.
It's a way to connect with the world.
To learn new things.
To broaden your horizons.
And they remind us that reading is a journey.
Not a destination.
So keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those minds sharp.
It feels like we've gone through just about everything.
I think we have, from finding the right books to dealing with distractions to the power of reading with others.
We've really explored the amazing ways reading can boost your English.
We dug up some real treasures from that Daily Reading Practice podcast transcript.
We did.
But before we wrap things up, I want to stress one really important point.
Okay. What's the big takeaway?
Consistency is key. Even short bursts of reading done regularly can have a huge impact on your English over time.
Makes sense. It's like working out. You wouldn't expect to get ripped after just one gym session.
Exactly. It's about making reading a part of your daily routine.
Not about trying to cram in marathon reading sessions.
Right. Just a little bit each day can make a big difference.
So as we close out this episode, I want to leave you with a question.
Ooh, I like this. What's the question?
What's one thing you can do today to put all this into action?
Will you carve out 15 minutes before bed to read?
Will you dust off that old vocabulary notebook?
Maybe finally join that online book club.
Any small step counts.
Even swapping 5 minutes of social media for 5 minutes with a book can make a difference.
So make a commitment to yourself.
To make reading a regular part of your life.
Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the world of reading and language learning.
We hope you enjoyed the journey.
And learned some valuable tips along the way.
Keep reading, keep growing, and keep those brains working.
Thank you for listening to the Speak Smart podcast. We'll see you next time.